Hello, I'm Mrs. J, and welcome to my math class. This section we're going to talk about the odds for an event. We talked about probability before. The odds uses the probability, but instead of the part divided by the total, it's the likelihood it will happen, and then a colon and the likelihood it won't happen. So if we talk about the odds of rolling a 5, we know that there's 1 5 when you roll a die. So the odds of rolling a 5 is 1, but it's not 1/6. When you're talking about odds, there's 1 5, and there's 5 that are not a 5. So remember your possibilities. So the odds is how many are in your group and then how many are not. They should add up to your total. Odds against rolling a 5 then would just flip it. Not a 5, there's 5 of them, and there's 1 5. So the odds against rolling a 5 would be 5 to 1. Oops. I added a coin toss in here. The odds of tossing a heads, we know the probability is a half. The odds is there's 1 head and 1 tail, so it's 1 to 1. When those are the same, they're equally likely. So it's equally likely to happen. Back to the die, the odds of rolling a number less than 3, well, less than 3 would be these two. So it's 2 of them. And then not less than 3 is 4 of them. So it's 2 to 4. Now notice that will reduce. Just like your fractions, it's up to you if you reduce it. But you could divide both by 2 and get 1 to 2. So you can reduce. If the odds are A to B, then the probability of A is A over A plus B, because A plus B is your total. Let's look at a couple more. Let's look at the deck of cards again, and we'll assume 52 cards. What's the odds of pulling a king? Well, there's 4 kings. So it's 4, 2, but it's not 4 to 52. Because then you're including the kings. You have to take them out. So it's 4 to 48. Or you could reduce it by dividing by 4, and it'd be 1 to 12. If we have an event A, we've talked about not pulling certain cards. For an event A, when you're talking about probability, when it's not A, it's 1 minus the probability of A. So when we talk about the odds of not pulling a king, we just flip them, 48 to 4. But when you're talking about the probability of it not happening, it's 1 minus its probability. So let's look at a few of these. I guess I'll write it down here. The probability of pulling a heart. Well, we said a little earlier, well, in the last one, it was 13 out of 52, which is 0.25. The probability it's not a heart, then, is 1 minus, and I use the decimal because it's a little easier to subtract by decimals than fractions. If you use a fraction, you have to have a common denominator. But the probability it's not a heart is 0.75 or 3/4. If there's an 80% chance of passing this course, find the probability of not passing. Well, we know 80% is the same as 0.80. So if passing is 80%, not passing is 1 minus the 0.8. One minus 8/10 is 2/10, or multiply by 100 to get the 20%. So there's a 20% chance of not passing. There's 33 students in this class. Approximately how many will pass? Well, we know 80% are going to pass, so we take 80% of the 33, which means we need to multiply them . So 26.5 students will pass. If you have any questions, just mark in the comments below. And thank you for coming to class. Just stop that. Okay, stop.